Well, President Obama has made his first substantive remarks on the crisis in Gaza since being elected. Obama was speaking at the State Department, flanked by Secretary of State Hillary Clinton, as he named two key envoys: retired Senate Majority Leader George Mitchell, who negotiated a lasting agreement in Northern Ireland, will be Middle East envoy, and Richard Holbrooke, who brokered a deal in the Balkans in the mid-1990s, will be envoy to Afghanistan and Pakistan. In his remarks, Obama backed Israel's 3-week attack on Gaza as a defensive move against Hamas rocket fire, but also said he was deeply concerned about the humanitarian situation for Palestinians in Gaza. The 22-day assault killed more than 1,400 Palestinians, most of them civilians, at least a third children. More than 5,500 were injured. 13 Israelis were killed over the same period, 10 of them soldiers and 4 by friendly fire. This is some of what President Obama had to say.
Let me be clear. America is committed to Israel's security, and we will always support Israel's right to defend itself against legitimate threats. For years, Hamas has launched thousands of rockets at innocent Israeli citizens. No democracy can tolerate such danger to its people, nor should the international community. And neither should the Palestinian people themselves, whose interests are only set back by acts of terror. To be a genuine party to peace, the Quartet has made it clear that Hamas must meet clear conditions: recognize Israel's right to exist, renounce violence, and abide by past agreements. Going forward, the outline for a durable ceasefire is clear. Hamas must end its rocket fire. Israel will complete the withdrawal of its forces from Gaza. The United States and our partners will support a credible anti-smuggling and interdiction regime so that Hamas cannot rearm. Yesterday, I spoke to President Mubarak and expressed my appreciation for the important role that Egypt played in achieving a ceasefire, and we look forward to Egypt's continued leadership and partnership in laying a foundation for a broader peace through a commitment to end smuggling from within its borders. Just as the terror of rocket fire aimed at innocent Israelis is intolerable, so too is a future without hope for the Palestinians. I was deeply concerned by the loss of Palestinian and Israeli life in recent days, and by the substantial suffering and humanitarian needs in Gaza. Our hearts go out to Palestinian civilians who are in need of immediate food, clean water, and basic medical care, and who faced suffocating poverty for far too long. Now we must extend a hand of opportunity to those who seek peace. As part of a lasting ceasefire, Gaza's border crossings should be open to allow the flow of aid and commerce, with an appropriate monitoring regime with the international and Palestinian Authority participating. Relief efforts must be able to reach innocent Palestinians who depend on them. The United States will fully support an international donors conference to seek short-term humanitarian assistance and long-term reconstruction for the Palestinian economy. This assistance will be provided to and guided by the Palestinian Authority. Lasting peace requires more than a long ceasefire, and that's why I will sustain an active commitment to seek two states living side by side in peace and security. Senator Mitchell will carry forward this commitment, as well as the effort to help Israel reach a broader peace with the Arab world that recognizes its rightful place in the community of nations. I should add that the Arab Peace Initiative contains constructive elements that could help advance these efforts. Now is the time for Arab states to act on the initiative's promise by supporting the Palestinian government under President Abbas and Prime Minister Fayyad, taking steps towards normalizing relations with Israel, and by standing up to extremism that threatens us all. Jordan's constructive role in training Palestinian security forces and nurturing its relations with Israel provide a model for these efforts. And going forward, we must make it clear to all countries in the region that external support for terrorist organizations must stop.
President Obama speaking at the State Department yesterday. A Hamas spokesperson told Al Jazeera television Obama's position toward the Palestinians doesn't represent a change. Osama Hamdan said, quote, "I think this is an unfortunate start for President Obama in the region and the Middle East issue, and it looks like the next 4 years, if it continues with the same tone, will be a total failure," the end of quote. Well, for more on this, we are joined by Noam Chomsky, professor of linguistics at the Massachusetts Institute of Technology for over half a century. He's written over 100 books, including Failed States, The Abuse of Power, and The Assault on Democracy. Welcome to Democracy Now! Noam.
Glad to be with you again.
It's good to have you with us. Well, let's start off by your response to President Obama's statement and whether you think it represents a change.
It's approximately the Bush position. He began by saying that Israel, like any democracy, has a right to defend itself. That's true, but there's a gap in the reasoning. It has a right to defend itself. That doesn't follow that it has a right to defend itself by force. So we might agree, say, that the British Army and the United States in the colonies in 1776 had a right to defend itself from the terror of the George Washington's armies, which was quite real, but it didn't follow that they had a right to defend themselves by force, because they had no right to be here. So yes, they had a right to defend themselves, and they had a way to do it, namely leave. Same with the Nazis defending themselves against the terror of the partisans. They have no right to do it by force. In the case of Israel, it's exactly the same. They have a right to defend themselves, and they can easily do it. One, in a narrow sense, they could have done it by accepting the ceasefire that Hamas proposed right before the invasion. I won't go through the details. A ceasefire that had been in place and that Israel violated and broke. But in a broader sense, and this is a crucial omission in everything Obama said, and if you know who his advisors is, you understand why, Israel can defend itself by stopping its crimes. Gaza and the West Bank are a unit. Israel, with U.S. backing, is carrying out constant crimes, not only in Gaza, but also in the West Bank, where it is moving systematically with U.S. support to take over the parts of the West Bank that it wants, and to leave Palestinians isolated in unviable cantons, Bantustans, as Sharon called them. Well, stop those crimes, and resistance to them will stop. Now, Israel has been able pretty much to stop resistance in the occupied territories, thanks in large part to the training that Obama praised by Jordan, of course, with U.S. funding and monitoring control. So yes, they've managed to, in fact, have been suppressing demonstrations, even demonstrations, peaceful demonstrations, that called for support for the people of Gaza. They've carried out lots of arrests. In fact, they're a collaborationist force which supports the U.S. and Israel in their effort to take over the West Bank. Now, that's what Obama. If Israel, there's no question that all of these acts are in total violation of the foundations of international humanitarian law. Israel knows it. Their own advisors have told legal advisors have explained that to them back in '67. The World Court ruled on it. So it's all total criminality, but they want to be able to persist without any objection. And that's the thrust of Obama's remarks. Not a single word about U.S.-backed Israeli crimes, settlement, development, cantonization, a takeover in the West Bank. Rather, everyone should be quiet and let the United States and Israel continue with it. He spoke about the constructive steps of the Arab peace agreement very selectively. He said they should move forward towards normalization of relations with Israel. But that wasn't the main theme of the Arab League peace proposal. It was that there should be a two-state settlement, which the U.S. blocks. I mean, he said some words about a two-state settlement, but not where or when or how or anything else. He said nothing about the core of the problem, the U.S.-backed criminal activities, both in Gaza, which they attack at will, and crucially in the West Bank. That's the core of the problem. And you can understand it when you look at his advisors. So, say, Dennis Ross wrote an 800-page book about in which he blames Arafat for everything that's happening, barely mentions the word settlement, which was increasing steadily during the period when he was Clinton's advisor. In fact, peaked a sharp increase in Clinton's last year. Not a word about it. So the thrust of his remarks, Obama's remarks, is that Israel has a right to defend itself by force, even though it has peaceful means to defend itself. The Arabs